This might look like a casual boat trip, but for Konstantin Chikalov, it's a protest for the river Pripyat. This is the third year the chairman of the Belarusian environmental organization Bagna has organized canoe tours like this one. His goal is to show people here the unspoiled nature along the river and to demonstrate against the E40 waterway which could be built here. Konstantin has been protecting nature and wildlife around him since he was a child.
For us, the Pripyat is like a European version of the Amazon River. This place is unique because people can come here and see what rivers used to look like, what nature in Europe was like once. And if we can preserve these large areas of wild nature, we are also helping to keep the ecological balance on the European continent.
The E40 waterway would cut straight through 11 nature reserves, and the activists say it could destroy a unique ecosystem. The canal is supposed to connect the Baltic Sea with the Black Sea. Its route goes through the so-called Palesia, one of the last big wetland areas in Europe, with rare black alder forests. 90% of the birds in Belarus live here, including endangered species. Some animals nest directly on the untouched banks. This time, the canoe route stretches for 35 kilometers, mainly along wild sections of the river, which would have to be dug out to allow commercial traffic. In some of the tributaries, even canoes have to go slow. On the way, the group stops several times in villages on the river to talk to locals about the planned waterway.
Often people in the villages only have limited sources of information, and we can be one of those sources for them, so that they don't only get information from state media, but also hear a different opinion. And then they can decide for themselves. Do they want the river's infrastructure to develop? Or do they want to protect the environment around them and keep it healthy?
The river has always been at the center of life in villages like Krasava. So far, no one here has heard of the planned E40 waterway. But some locals are quick to welcome anything that could give the region's economy a push.
A waterway would be good for us. Boats used to go to Ukraine from here as well. There was a lot of traffic on the river.
Of course it has a negative effect on the environment, and that would be bad. There isn't much water here anymore. You used to be able to fish. Now the river is drying up more and more.
Let them build it. Then things will get more civilized, there will be more people, things will be exciting, and we can take a trip all the way to the Black Sea.
The government is still looking for investors for the waterway. A final decision on the E40 project or its construction hasn't been reached, which is why the Belarusian Transport Ministry cancelled an interview with us at the last minute. But the chairman of the Transnational Expert Commission on the E40 project highlights the advantages of transporting cargo on the water. He says it's better for the environment, and routes over land are at full capacity already.
Infrastructure has to be developed in order for the surrounding region to develop. Using the potential of the river for the good of the people is the main task of the government.
Day 2 of the canoeing campaign. For many of the participants, it's the first time on this tour. During breakfast and at the campfire, Konstantin can share his concerns about the E40 waterway with them. He's convinced that Belarus should be investing in ecotourism rather than in cargo on the river Pripyat.
People don't think about leaving these spots untouched, simply leaving them to nature itself. To just sit down peacefully just like this and simply watch, to hear the birds sing or watch things slowly changing.
The activist warns that the construction of the canal could dry out the wetlands here, just like when the swamps were drained for large-scale Soviet agriculture programs. The riverbed would have to be deepened to allow big ships to pass. The Pripyat River flows through areas that were contaminated by the Chernobyl reactor disaster. For Konstantin, that's just another reminder to heed the lessons of the past. Otherwise, the Pripyat could become another example of an ambitious economic project with catastrophic consequences for the natural world.